heard this narrative about, oh, we went through maximum FUD, and I know I wasn't around, but there's no such thing as maximum FUD if mainstream media is not aware of it. And from my understanding, when you guys were going through all that FUD before, no one but crypto and people online knew what Hex was. Right now, a lot of people know what Hex is, Richard Hart is, because it's all over mainstream media. You add the film on top of that. Right now, the ecosystem's going through maximum.
But this was not my point, really. My point was that we did 10,000x with no exchange listings, for example, you know, with all those influencers hating on it. So this was my point, that I think even today we can do 100x.
Let me get to the question you asked, because I think if Richard is presented the opportunity where he can settle with no admission of guilt or stuff, he's going to take it, because, you know, this is not like a central exchange which has revenues coming in and they can like fund a legal fund for like years on end. Like even what was it, Bitrex can settle for $24 million, and they're a revenue generating company. So if the opportunity presents itself where you can just pay a fine, walk away scot-free, I think he's going to take it. I'm willing to bet on it.
I agree. Well, he will. He will.
This was, again, not the point that I was making. My point that I was making is, even if the SEC thing goes on for 10 years, I believe Hex will make an all-time high, like Tangent said.
I heard the source of your question. Could it do the all-time high even if the case doesn't settle? I'm not sure. I don't know if I have enough information yet. And it's not to be bearish or bullish. I think it's just that same idea where I said, like, you could wait 6 months on the ETH launch and then look pretty smart. Like, I probably need just a few more months to see who's really got it. You know, are the voices that are misrepresenting data, are they going to continue down the path of misrepresenting data? Then I lean bearish. Are they going to wake up and understand how to communicate with intellectual honesty? Well, if that's the case, then I'm probably going to lean a little more bullish, but it's going to be in flux for me. And I could absolutely, Abit, see a world where Hex goes to do an all-time high, even with lingering SEC stuff, because I'm not so crazy as to doubt shitcoins on the internet. Like, I just know better. I know that irrational things can happen because of the dynamics of how much money is outside of the system versus how much exists within it. And if you accidentally catch a relatively large drop of it, it'll rock the boat. So that's where I don't care to be some gigabear. Now, if it was SafeMoon, right, I was one of the first people to identify the LP exploit for SafeMoon, and I published it everywhere. And these, like, that would be a different story, right? Because to me, that exploit, or ultimately like an organized scheme, a scam, is not going to be one of those tokens that finds the magic pump or whatever. Like, it's probably just going to churn and burn every marginal penny that they can get from the next sucker. Whereas with Hex, I think you do have a lot of people with some significant bags who want to see it succeed. I just also think that we don't do a fair enough job of explaining, because it's not about Hex, and I think that's what makes people kind of nervous to talk about, is they think that they're calling out a negative quality of Hex. It's wrought throughout the industry of crypto. There are many people who just want to control the markets. They just don't want you to make money. They see you as an ATM, and you're allowed to do whatever you want so long as it is making their ATM go burr.
I want to show people that we are committed to continuing to build on Pulsechain. And also, I want to signal as well that these are people that have not had any exposure to Richard Hart. Probably 99% of these people, they have not had exposure to Hex. They've not had exposure to any of these. And we are tokenizing communities across the world. And I think that this is important for all of us to continue to build, for all of us to continue to advocate for what this is. In my opinion, Pulsechain is one of the last bastions of true crypto freedom. I think Bitcoiners have completely lost their way ideologically, and I think their greed is completely blinding them from what Satoshi originally thought that this experiment was going to be. I'm sure if Satoshi is dead, he's rolling over in his grave right now, quite frankly. I see that VCs have taken over a majority of these layer ones. All the important projects are also gobbled up by these folks, which in and of itself is not bad, but I don't necessarily believe that the existing economic structure out there and the people who provide liquidity and fund these projects have the best intentions in mind for regular folks like you and me. So we're going to continue to push forward with Pulsechain. We are going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to have these spaces. We're going to continue to stream We're going to continue to lead the way. I think that we can be that bastion of light for the cryptocurrency community moving forward. And we have to be. We've got to create our own world. We got to stop begging for the scraps from other people, and let's just move forward and use our good ideas and have these conversations.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I feel even more motivated to hold crypto and get more bags and anything with this whole SEC attack. It's because I feel there's so much more conviction added to the government saying, like, oh, you want to stop me? You know this is a good thing for me. And the fact that you're attacking it is more proof that I'm on the right path. And you're over here trying to scare me out of my bags? I don't think so. And I really think it's going to play out well in our favor because of this. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'm actually real excited about this because I'm excited to fight back, and I'm excited just to be part of this and hold these bags and keep buying. And when they keep telling me not to, it's like, screw you, man. I'm going to keep buying because this is the only way I could fight back against all you motherfuckers trying to tell me what I can and can't do and trying to control me with your digital dollar system. Hell no. And I could just see this playing out where we are one of the true cryptos left, and that everyone's going to, when everyone gets chained down with these stupid digital dollars, they're going to be like, crap, we're screwed. Where else can we go to get crypto? The only true crypto left, which is Pulsechain and Hex. Oh, let's go, everyone.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, screw them all. Recognize this for what it is. It's a massive governmental overreach. And if you wanted something to fight for, here's your opportunity. And you don't have to be a talker. You don't have to be a streamer. But you can vote with your units of labor if you want. Or you can just be here. You can just be here and be a part of the conversation.
What up, my brothers and sisters, Hexicans, Pulsechainiacs? Thank you, gentlemen of the bar. I'll tell you what, we're learning a thing or two about a certain stripe of these incarnated beings that are here. We all need to look at them and listen to the utterances that come out of their mouths, okay? And we need to say, who the fuck do you think you are? Because may every man and every woman be measured on their own merits. And if somebody who's made a career out of habitually lying and running a game of smoke and mirrors, they've made a career out of it. If they're going to be the one to try and stand over top of me and tell me how I'm allowed to transact what they see fit, the amounts and when and where and who and by what, vehicles I'm allowed to perform these transactions with who at what time. And I'm sorry, sir, did you say $601? Well, I'm afraid you're going to need to account. You know what? Who the fuck do you think you are is what I want to say. So when we remember that our hearts were stirred tonight the most, okay, bringing up these very fundamental points about knowing, once again, alluding to Bitlaw's quote there where he talked about know the game you're playing. We got to know the game we're playing, and we got to know who, maybe what we're playing this game with and this game against and what their long game is. I don't want to be the guy who wakes up one morning and asks the turnkey if he could loosen my zip ties and if I can have an extra spoon of gruel. Some people aren't going to wake up until then.
I was searching around and I noticed that the U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis, who's a Republican from Wyoming, actually did file an amicus brief on August 11th, so just 2 days ago, supporting the Coinbase motion to dismiss their case from the SEC. And there was also 6 professors that joined in, law professors, who basically, apparently, at least according to the writer of this article, shredded the SEC's view of an investment contract. I think that I'm going to give it a shot. If any of you other folks would like to call Cynthia Lummis's office in Wyoming, you can try. Again, the way these senators tend to work, if you're not working in their interests, is they tend to dismiss you, but we are calling in support, and I would love it if she would say the same thing with us. Here's what she said. Drawing attention to the Loomis-Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act, which apparently passed in 2021. It aims to regulate crypto, and the senator said there are already ongoing debates in Congress on crypto regulation. Now, this is cool because this is occurring in the Senate where we don't have a stronghold. And therefore, she said, the court should dismiss the SEC's case, leave it up to Congress to develop appropriately balanced regulations, and she is known for being pro-crypto. So That's what I would let everybody chew on. Again, it's Cynthia Loomis.
How many immutable smart contracts have been indicted and and crushed by the SEC or the legal system, and it's zero. So I think if we focus on the compelling facts out there, that the likelihood of something catastrophic happening to this is just it's a giant red herring, and we need to just focus on the positive things that are going on with the RH ecosystem items, and just go get more people to become part of this, because they can benefit their lives moving forward and their family.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, the neat thing about all the content creators that we have around here is that I think there's different flavors. The thing that I don't want to be pigeonholed into with a bunch of with everybody in the community is to say that Rags is just, he's the doomsday guy. He tries to drum up engagement by talking about the negatives and things like that. I certainly want to be positive, and there's certainly so much positivity out there. I don't, this might be me. I might be like, I don't know, a sociopath or a psychopath, but I actually feel better after listening to BitLaw and really breaking down like what the worst case scenario is, because I feel like it makes my arguments for the good scenarios much stronger, because I come from like a place of understanding.
Okay, first thing, I do not disagree with Papa's point. Yeah, we need to onboard people. We are right now in the middle of a horrible bear, so if we can make some of the other folks our friends so that we don't have such a big black eye when the bull market arrives, I think we'll be better off. And that's my case for compelling other communities, Shiba, and all those other folks out there, even the other blockchains that are not Ethereum. All those guys are basically, we fall, they fall eventually in one way or another. So we need to convince them. I do believe that we're on fairly good ground when we go in there and you say, look, you got to love me because I'm a Richard Hart Maximus. You're going to get nothing out of a Solana person or a Doge person or any of those guys. They have big communities, Pepe too. But when you say, look, regardless of what you think about this Richard Hart character, this is important to you guys, then we start to win friends. And so that's number one. Number two, I would like to know from BitLaw, because I know we're in a complaint right now, or from Eric, either of you guys that can answer this, specifically, when is the earliest time that we as signers of a amicus brief can file? Does it have to be on appeal, or can it be when the court case is filed? I know there's also a ticking time bomb from whatever the date is, but I'm trying to figure out, can I assume we cannot be part of an amicus brief with a friend of the court, but am I wrong on that? And can we be a part of an amicus brief before the whole thing is settled or not?
I think, you look to, it's the district court rules. So you look first to their rules and see if they have any specific rules on, when is the proper time or the appropriate time, or what restrictions they have on filing amicus, right? But generally, if it's at the district court level, you need something to be litigated before the court that's coming up on, a pertinent hearing, like a motion to dismiss, summary judgment, something like that. Where it's really important, where I've found that they have, more weight, more favor is on appeal. All that's to say that now, we haven't even had service at this point, if you look through the docket. So it's premature.
Well, from a common sense point, and maybe that's bad with law, common sense, but I just want it to be known that we're not a bunch of potted plants waiting to be watered by Richard Hart pissing on us. We're not that. We're smart folks. We are, and that's who I want to understand. We consider ourselves victims, not the other blockchain investors. I want the court to get it, because I can make it probably very provable by saying, look, here's where we were dropped by Uniswap. Here's where our price went down within an hour. These guys are wrecking balls.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, and here's one of the things that is kind of, the more that you've been doing it, the more that you really kind of understand how a lot of this court system and, judges work in general. I've had cases before where it was like, I guess, for example, a mold case where the plaintiff in that matter was suing an insurance company trying to recover for mold that was in her home. And as part of that case on appeal, she had lost at the district court level, and we had a novel issue on appeal, and we had a 3-judge panel. And I remember distinctly bringing the plaintiff, it was this like 23-year-old, young, good looking lady into the court along with her kids, because I knew the impact that would have on the judges to appeal to their emotion. And I remember I was shocked, when we took a break, one of the judges came up to me and told me, look, I don't know how I'm going to rule in your favor and how I'm going to justify it, but I'm going to do it. Right. Like, with no regard for, what the proper law would be, they were going to find a way. Right. And a lot of times you have to consider that that's the same sort of sentiment applies to cases carte blanche across the board. A lot of times you could have judges, how they say, whenever you appoint a judge, right, they're supposed to be unbiased, but yet we have all of these differing opinions whenever we get a new Supreme Court appointee, to the point where we have Ketanji, and she won't even opine on what a woman is because it's not her place, because she's not a biologist. Things
Right.
like that, where people have, their political leanings, their biases, their experiences that influence the way that they perceive the world and the way that they perceive their opinions, right? So at some point, you have to consider it might not even matter how logical your opinions are, how you present yourself. Sometimes you might just get dealt a raw hand, and you could be before a judge that's really not going to see it your way. So to that end, I think it would take it would be beneficial to actually look at this judge that's hearing this case, and to try to see, hey, what has this judge done in the past when presented certain issues, and based on that, how would that affect their likelihood to rule on a particular matter?
All litigators would say.
In my amicus, I speak about not securities. I never use the word invest. I always talk about commodity holders who have bought and sold Pulse, Pulsex, or Hex. So I'm doing that. But I guess I'm thinking of it as if I was going to go into a boxing match, and I want to last as many rounds as possible. So I want to get my group of hexicans, pulsicans, and otherkins signed, so I got the biggest number of signatures possible when the time comes. And then I will go the first chance I get, the next chance I get, the next chance. I'll keep fighting at every round, and I want to know, can I use the same group of signatures? Because, to be honest, it's harder than heck to get a bunch of crypto investors to put their name, their address, and their phone number and their email anywhere, even if it is behind a privacy wall. So I want to start on that as soon as possible, and I want to actually file at the earliest possible time, which I'm not sure what it is. And is it not true that this is different in securities law than it would be in regular law? I don't know.
Guys, I think this is kind of like shocking. I haven't even really considered this up until now, but I mean, let's just chat about something that no one's really brought up until this point. So this case was assigned to Judge Carol Bagley Amon from the Eastern District. She was born in 1946 in Richmond, Virginia. She's a white female. She's a registered Republican. She was appointed by George H.W. Bush. She was confirmed in 1990, right?
Everyone knows
her non-judicial positions before this. She was chief of general crimes, chief of frauds, assistant U.S. attorney for the Eastern District, and the chief of the narcotics task force. So considering that in this group setting, because whatever we've discussed up until this point led to the idea that, hey, if you guys are going to want to file some sort of amicus, let's look at who this case is before, because we started talking about how your experiences kind of cloud and color your positions and how you look at the world, and how a lot of that it depends on what judge and how the cards are dealt, what judge this gets assigned to. So like we were talking, you have this white female judge. She's a registered Republican. She was appointed by George H.W. Bush. She held previous positions as an assistant U.S. attorney for the Eastern District. She was at one point the chief of frauds, which I think is very interesting, because remember, we had that whole tangent that we were talking about, Rags, you and I, the other night, about what is common law fraud, and how the courts have taken a broader approach to that under the context of securities law, right? So she was the chief of frauds. She was the chief of general crimes. for the Eastern District, senior litigation counsel, and a magistrate. So considering all that together, we can even look at her previous financial disclosures and then a lot of her previous opinions in order to try to get a flavor for what makes this judge tick, and then ultimately use that to your advantage when trying to craft arguments seeking to actually move her to action.
I wanted to build on top some of the points that I think has been hinted at so far. I mean, BitLaw has been kind of talking about how, a bit of the judicial process works. And I really want to highlight the point that, our personal opinions on these technicalities really don't matter. Guys, we're in the middle of a political dogfight. What is and isn't a security is completely a political determination. What governmental body ends up overseeing this and to what extent is completely a political determination. And right now, because the Congress doesn't want to touch this issue, it's allowed these different regulatory bodies to enter this power vacuum and try and take control of these things themselves. But I really want to encourage, especially Americans, to really think about the beneficial impact about getting politically involved. I'm willing to state that I am from Canada, and I have worked in different politicians' offices to varying degrees in the past. And I want to tell you folks that on the local level, people organizing, calling their local congressman, calling their local senator, in my circumstance, calling their local member of parliament, can 100% have an impact. And I was just looking this up during the conversation, and the SEC chairman is appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate, but there are some regulatory bodies that oversee the SEC, including some portion of the American Senate, of the American Congress that's in charge of finance. Anyways, my point is, I know for a fact there's some Texan congressmen who sit on that committee that oversee the SEC. Folks, you can call up your local congressman, your local senator, and let them know that the SEC's lack of regulatory clarity is an issue for you. And the more polite you are and the more organized you are, it can have a real effect. And I'm letting you guys know because I've worked in these offices before. And if 5 people in one province or one state get together and say, hey guys, at 5 p.m. we're all going to call our local congressman and we're going to very politely let them know that the SEC's lack of regulatory clarity is hurting me, that gets noticed because I've worked in these offices before. And if you, and the more well you get organized, let's say you book a meeting to see your local congressman and just explain that, hey, the SEC's lack of regulatory clarity is an issue for you. Guys, this gets noticed. You guys have more power than you know because I've been in these offices and 2 or 3 people getting together and extremely politely talking to your local representative on the local level 100% makes a difference. And guys, this is a political dogfight, all right? These determinations are 100% political. The Senate confirms the head of the SEC, and there's different senatorial and congressional bodies that oversee the SEC. I highly, highly encourage you Americans to get politically active, call up your local congressman, and just tell them that the lack of regulatory clarity from the SEC is hurting you. And if anyone wants to DM me in regards to how to form a narrative and how to organize, I have experience in this personally. Feel free to DM me. My DMs are open. And I just want to highly encourage you Americans to start getting politically involved.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it. I definitely think that there is massive, massive room for improvement